How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? Sorry, it took a little second. I had to download Zoom, and I was like, I don't download it.
I literally had to do a test call. I made a phone to my brother, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm Tiana. Sorry. Hello.
Hi, I'm Mikaila. Nice to meet you.
True. It's awesome to chat to you. I know it's probably not ideal circumstances at the moment in the music world, but you guys have had a pretty sensational time of late. I mean, obviously you've had lack of version, pandemic, lack of live shows, new music, and then most excitingly, you've got the announcement of your brand new album out in September. Have you actually been able to enjoy any of this so far with everything that's going on?
It's kind of weird because you're really excited about all these things that are happening, but then you kind of realize that you need to adjust the way they're coming out because of like coronavirus stuff like that. So it's been ups and downs, and there's a lot of things I'm like sad that we don't get to do, but we've been able to experiment with different ways of putting out songs and future shows and stuff like that. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, probably the best way to put it, I reckon, and it's still in a positive way.
Yeah, I
That's the only way we can be, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess before we chat a little bit more about self-care in depth, I mean, we've kind of had a little bit of a sneak peek so far about what's to come. There's been Together and Composure, obviously.
I know across your mind, you hope it will slow down in time, but
what's the reaction been like for the new material so far? Has it been like what you expected? Has it been nice to finally have these songs get out in the world?
Definitely. It's been great. I had a lot of anxiety going into the album and just wanting it to be amazing. And I think it's a little bit different what we did on our last EP. So I was a little bit like, I was wondering what the reaction was going to be like, but everyone seems to be like really positive about it and like happy with the direction that it's gone in. So I'm pretty happy.
That's a positive thing. And I guess on the topic of that, you have spoken about, like, obviously in the lead up, there was a lot of anxiety and stress kind of going into this. Was it cathartic to kind of face those fears, and whether you smashed the expectations or not, like, did it give you that sense of achievement to actually reach this point and now be poised on the brink of release?
Yeah, as soon as the album was done, I was like, okay, we actually did it. There's these 10 songs that are on an album, and I, for a second, was like, I don't know if we're going to be able to do it to the point that I like of me loving it. And because it's 10 songs, like it's more than 5. Like we're used to doing like 5 songs. And so just writing it and kind of like pressuring yourself to write the best songs of your life was like really daunting.
Yeah.
But once it was done, I stepped back and I listened to it from beginning to end. I was like, okay, we did it. It's done. I love it. I'm happy with it. And I think that going forward, like, I know that like having those anxieties is normal, and I feel like it's good because it makes you work really hard. I think it's exactly what it did for us.
Yeah. And I think with you guys too, what a lot of people may forget, I mean, you have achieved so much in such a short space of time. And what people may forget is not only are you a relatively young band, quite literally in age, but in existence as well. And what you've kind of achieved is so sensational. And this is your debut. Like, saying going from 5 to 10 songs, did you guys have a really clear idea, like creatively, where you wanted the album to head, or did you kind of open yourselves up to evolve along the way?
It was a little bit of both. I think that we went in being like, okay, we want to do what we did in Afterglow, but do it like more mature, maybe make it a bit more alternative. That was the goal, was to kind of like be a bit more of an alternative band than kind of like, pop punk. Yeah. But kind of keeping like the pop punk roots that we had, but kind of just evolving on that. And I think that we've always loved to do is we don't like having the same song. Like we like every single song to kind of have their own feel and to like, take inspiration from different genres. So I think that, having 10 songs this time really gave us room to explore. And there are songs in the album that I don't think we would have written if we had only space for 5. Yeah. And they're my favorites.
Oh, awesome. Even better. I love that. Yeah. And I guess on the topic of that too, how does a Yours Truly song come to life? I mean, whether it's totally taking the other songs out of the equation previously, like was this process the same as you'd already done, or is there like a secret well-oiled machine kind of routine you guys have going now that you've been doing it a little bit longer?
With the album, we wrote songs a lot of different ways, which I think was really good to like experiment with different songwriting like procedures kind of thing. So some of the songs is just me and Lockie, my guitarist, we like to just sit down and press record and just play, and then I'll sing things and he'll play things, and they'll be like, that was cool, like, and then we'll like listen to it back and they'll be like, oh, like, and we've always done that, like something that we've always done. We worked with our producer Stevie Knight. We did Afterglow with him, and meeting him and getting to know him during that process meant that, you know, we really trusted him and we learned how to work with him. So we wrote a lot of songs for the album with him, which was, you know, we did that pre-album as well. So a lot of the stuff was just like, we just went into the album with all these different songs that we wrote like ourselves, some songs we wrote with him. Sometimes we even sat in a room and just played something and was just like, oh, like you play this and you play that. And like, I'm singing to one of the guys like, play this on guitar and yeah, change that. So it was a lot of different things that we did just to try to see what was going to be the best for us. That's why I think we have so many songs on the album that kind of sound different to the last one, because they all have different origins, that they came from different places and different people, which was cool.
Yeah. And interestingly, I like how you mentioned the pop punk thing, let's call it that. So is that something you guys identify with? Because everyone loves to label things. I personally hate genre labels. So I am interested to know, like, is that something you guys still identify with, or do you feel like this is a chance for you to kind of stylistically present something new to the world, essentially?
I think that the genre is so broad, and I also don't really like, as I've gotten older, I mean, in high school, my year 12 jersey had Defend Pop Punk on the back.
Nice.
So I was all for genre labeling. But as I've gotten older, I'm also the same. Like, I'm kind of over labeling at things. And so I think for this album, we were like, we want to kind of stay true to like what we did before, but we want to show people a different side of us. So I think alternative kind of like puts everything in the one box. And I feel like that's kind of like where we want to go.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I always think it's nice to have that broader thing, because it doesn't pigeonhole you and gives you room to grow a bit too, especially at this stage of your career. So I'm excited to hear that. So live music, I know obviously that's been a huge factor that we've all been missing massively. But one thing, we kind of got a little hint of you guys playing live. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, you guys knocked it out of the park with Like a Virgin recently, playing Composure and a little side hint of Oasis. What was the thought? How did you narrow it down to that? Did you have a couple you were kind of bouncing around, and what kind of made that one the final choice?
Well, the first band we said was Oasis. Like, the first artist we were like, let's do an Oasis song. And I think I really wanted to do Some Might Say, like that was originally the one that I wanted to do. But Don't Look Back in Anger was a challenge. So it kind of just made it harder, and it was probably, you know, we'll do that one. We were also thinking about doing like Harry Styles, something like current, like something new. But yeah, like pretty much from like the get-go, it was always Oasis.
Yeah. Interesting you say it's difficult. I, in my youth, always would pick that song for karaoke thinking, oh, it'd be so easy.
It's not easy. It sounds like it's supposed to be, but it's definitely not. I tried to just change it a little bit just to make it like owls and stuff, and some people didn't like that, but
no,
I do.
I think well, it makes me feel better that you say it's not easy, and I'm like, thank God it's not just me. And I personally loved it. So that's all that matters in this time between us. That's all that matters.
Very much.
And I guess too, as stuff slowly, hopefully comes back to normal, we may very well get to see this beautiful album live in action. Is there a song or potentially a couple of songs that you're most keen on to really bust out live when you finally can?
Yeah, the first track on the album is called Siamese Souls, And we've like, you know, we've been playing around with it, like when we get together to practice, and like this is going to be like just like huge live. So, and it's really cool because it kind of comes straight in. It's like the first song's powerful. So I think that's the one I'm most excited about live.
Excellent. That can barrel up, put it on the wish list. And taking a little trip down memory lane, I guess, so we can reminisce about live music in the absence of it. Is there a particular standout moment for you after all this time? I mean, you guys have played some insane shows. I won't sit here and list them because we'll be here for a while. But has there been one that has just stood out for you, whether it's been amazing, terrible, or hilarious? Is there one still in memory bank?
Yeah, whenever I hear that question, I always think of Sydney Good Things. Just like kind of coming back and like, you know, we had been in the States. Or, yeah, we had done like the Australian like afterglow tour, and then I remember 2 weeks later we went to the States. We're there for 6 weeks and then came home, and just kind of like being away for 6 weeks, coming back and playing those shows, they were huge. Like all the Good Things shows were massive for us. And they're probably like my 3 favorite shows we played last year.
Yeah, you had such an amazing run. I'm glad you could narrow it down to a few. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I guess as someone who potentially seems like you had quite an interest in pop punk in your high school days, by the sound of it, as did I. What music did you actually grow up? Like, was it always that stuff? Was that the kind of thing that really sparked you wanting to become a musician professionally? Or is there something completely unexpected that just kickstarted this amazing adventure for you?
I went through like 2 different journeys of music. So I had a cousin that was really into MySpace. So that was kind of like where that all came for me. She's like 5 years older than me. So she'd be like, listen to like, you know, I think the first 2 bands she ever showed me was Paramore and Bring Me the Horizon. So like both kind of very different, especially at the time. And I remember being like 11 and being like, this is sick. So that's kind of like where that started for me. And then I started doing like singing lessons and going like to music school. And I just like fell in love with like Whitney Houston and like all of like those real like powerhouse vocalists. So that's kind of like my 2 like sides of like my music adventure.
Yeah. And when did you kind of realize that you could actually pursue this as a career? I mean, it sounds like you guys jumped pretty much straight out of high school into this adventure. Was that just straight line? That's exactly where you wanted to head with it?
Yeah, I actually changed schools in year 11. I went to a performing arts school because I just like knew that all I wanted to do was music. Yeah. And so I just kind of wanted to be around music and to like, you know, to be a part of it as much as possible. And in that year I met Teddy. And I think from like the moment that we met each other, I remember us just having these long conversations about like where we want to be in a couple of years, and like that we want to be here, we want to play this festival, and we want to do that. And I think from like that point onwards, it was like, all right, we're going to finish school soon, and just like go for it. And that's kind of what we did.
That sounds crazy. You know you made your bed, so go
So here you are. It's like literally the dream is coming true. So it's really, really inspiring. You're one of those people who knew what you wanted, whereas I'm secretly in my 30s and I'm still like, what do I actually want? So it's admirable and it's so awesome. It's really awesome to hear.
Thank you.
Now, last question to close it out. I won't keep you here all night, but I suppose in honour of self-care coming out in September, what is something that you actually do for yourself in terms of the actual self-care thing? Because your life would be a whirlwind with all the touring and everything. Is there something that just grounds you and gives you that moment of focus and peace?
This is going to sound really strange, but I love to play The Sims.
Oh my God. You just became a person ever. Yes. My sister-in-law's going to be so happy. We thought we were the only 2 still playing it.
Oh no, I remember getting it for my 13th birthday, and it just hasn't ended. Like, I've got a new laptop in the background. It's just like, it's uploading so I can like play it.
Yes. Off the record, do you use the cheats or do you play properly?
Look, it depends. It really depends. Half the time I use the cheats, but sometimes I give myself a challenge. But I usually just get over that game, just make a new one, start using cheats.
I love this so much. Yeah, officially my favourite. But more importantly, hopefully in the meantime you'll have a little bit more time to play, but you're going to have such an amazing rest of the year. Self-care out not that long now. It's August already.
I know.
What? But
like next month.
Yeah. But I'm just so excited for you guys. It's going to be such a huge step into just the next amazing adventure for you. And just congratulations. I had a little cheeky listen on the sly and I'm obsessed with it. So I can't wait for it to get out in the world and hopefully can see you guys live as well in the near future.
Thank you so much. This was lovely. It was so much fun.
Hey, I'm so glad. Oh my God, you've inspired me. I'm going to go play The Sims tonight. I'm not going to be embarrassed about it.
Go for it. Play. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
You don't get to say that.